Hi folks, welcome to another video here. Mike Dirubbo here, and I have the distinct pleasure of having the great alto saxophonist, actually multi-instrumentalist, Vincent Herring. Hey Vince, how you doing, man?
Good.
Thanks for being here, man.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so in the introduction I mentioned that I've pretty much known you like my entire career because when I was 18 years old, Jackie McLean had you come to the University of Hartford, and you did one of his lessons for him. And I still have a micro cassette somewhere of that. But I was looking up, you're not that much older than me, really about 6 years or so. I was born in 1970, and so it's kind of funny because at that time you could have been like 40 years old to me. Right. You know what I'm saying, when you're in school. But anyway, enough about me.
No, there's plenty about you, man.
Where did you grow up, Vince?
I grew up in Northern California in a place called Vallejo.
Oh yeah.
Which is between San Francisco and Napa Valley. So I'd say I'll make a guess and say 25 miles from San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah. I thought I read somewhere it said Kentucky or something.
I was born in Kentucky.
Oh, you were born in Kentucky. Okay.
But my parents divorced when I was 3. So my mom and we moved to Los Angeles where we had some relatives.
Yeah.
And so I started school in Los Angeles, and then when I was in I think maybe 4th grade. 4th grade, how old would that be? That's probably like 10 or something.
Yeah, about that. Well, 4th grade, maybe like 9.
Yeah, something like that.
That's when you pick up an instrument, right?
No, but I didn't for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
But that's when we moved to Northern California.
Okay.
At that time, and I grew up there, and the rest is history, as they say.
So how'd you get into the music, man? How'd you get into the saxophone?
Well, it was one of those things where, my mom being a single mom was always trying to think of things to keep me occupied. So, she was like, yeah, you should play an instrument. I was like, really? Okay. So it wasn't like I had a burning desire to do it. I had an uncle that played saxophone. And originally I was supposed to play violin in Los Angeles. And it didn't work out for some reason. I don't remember the specifics of why. But we moved to Northern California. And then in the 7th grade, I started saxophone. And what happened was I was in, they tracked kids in the public school there in a system they called the gifted program or something. And I was in the gifted program. And so I signed up for advanced band, even though I had never played an instrument. And of course, my rationale was, surely at the end of the week they will need to put me in the advanced band, so I'll just save them the trouble. And sign. Before I talk about cocky, man. So I signed up for advanced band, and I'm sitting there, and so in California at that time, everything was well funded, and they had all the instruments, and they said, okay, we need alto, we need a tenor, they said what they need, and so. I don't know. They're all the same to me. I don't know a difference. So there was room for a tenor saxophone. They had one for me to check out.
Yeah.
So as I was checking it out, I was watching how the other guys were putting it together, and I grabbed a reed from the thing and I put it together. Never played one ever. I don't even know how to really hold it, but I'm watching everybody else, and so I go in to take a seat. So we're starting to play something. This is advanced band.
Yeah.
And even in the 7th grade, advanced band can play something.
Right.
So we play. He stops the band and says, saxophones, letter A. Tenor saxophones, letter A. U, letter A. And I said, I'll play it next week. No, play it now.
Oh, damn.
Bust it. So that was it.
What kind of music was this? Just like concert band music?
Well,
or?
Whatever.
Yeah.
I assume. And so at that point I had to enroll in a local music school. There was a place called Dean Friedrichs Academy of Music, and it was walking distance from my school. But I had to get a saxophone teacher and enrolled in that music school, and then they would allow me to join beginning band. So I did that, and I practiced. My motivation was, I'll show them. It wasn't about music or any other beauty of music, anything. It was strictly, I'll show them kind of thing. And of course, at that age, if you're practicing 2 hours a day, that's 2 hours more than everybody else. So you do get better. And the next year, of course, I was able to get into the advanced band, and I just continued practicing, and then I started discovering music, and I wanted to hear more of the saxophone being played, and I started hearing jazz. My mom was is a jazz fan, and she constantly plays a wide spectrum of great music. And I didn't think of it as anything unusual. This is what she played, and this is what I listened to and I heard. And I just loved stuff I heard, and I wanted to hear more of it. Some favorites of hers, I heard a lot of Lou Donaldson, a lot of Eddie Harris, Grover Washington. She would play Ornette Coleman. She would play Coltrane. Loved Freddie Hubbard. A lot of those CTI records, always, all those were being played. So this was also during the beginning of the smooth jazz era, and I got a job in a music store after school, and it was great because I could practice when the store closed. And this was the beginning of Jamie Ingersoll's. I cranked those Ingersoll up, and I'd be practicing with those and playing with those. And then I would jam to what was ever on the radio, Gato Barbieri, and all of this stuff.
Like a Ropa or one of those.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that,
What was this? This would have been the 70s still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
so you actually, back in those days, you're hearing real instruments.
Oh, absolutely. And there was a
Yeah.
lot of, every pop group had a horn section, and
Right.
those kind of things. And, people did a lot of studio work. Even where I was, there was a band in my town called Confunction. They had a mild hit and a run a little bit. And there were some other groups in that area. But so I started practicing, and I loved jazz, and I remember hearing Billy Joel's I Love You Just the Way You Are, and Phil Woods takes that great solo on that record. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that alto saxophone sounds incredible. And I thought, just such a beautiful sound, And I used to study with a guy named Hal Stein. Do you know who Hal Stein is?
No.
Well, it's funny, my first saxophone teacher was a guy named David Peterson. And Dave asked me today via text if I study with Hal Stein. I was like, hell yeah, I studied with Hal Stein. Are you kidding me? I used to have so much fun studying with Hal. And so Hal is a peer of Phil Woods. And there was a record called Four Altos on Prestige. And it was Phil Woods, Hal Stein, Sahib Shahab, and who's the fourth one? Gene Quill.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure because you've had to see it already.
Yeah.
And Louis Hayes, Mal Waldron, Paul Chambers.
It's like a Prestige record?
Yes, Prestige, right. And it's got to be selling well because it's still in print. I still see it occasionally.
Yeah.
And so I stayed with Hal, and I heard that solo from Phil. And so Hal would he was really into Charlie Parker. Yeah, check this out. What else you been listening to? And I said, I heard this guy, Phil Woods. He was like, yeah, Phil's good. But yeah, check out Charlie Parker. and it was just funny because now knowing, that was his peer. And I was like, it's like me saying, yeah, you got to check out such, and you're like, no, check out, So it was a really funny thing. It was good times, and it was very healthy because he was a very good, thorough teacher. And as I was telling my first teacher, David Peterson, at Howell's, I would take a Greyhound bus from Vallejo to Oakland, California, and then a city bus to wherever Howell lived. And you have a lesson, and then his better students were able to stay for a session.
Mm.
And for $2 extra, you can have a tuna fish sandwich.
They charge you for the sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah, he charged you for the sandwich, which you know, is funny. My teacher was horrified. David Peterson was horrified to hear that. But I said to him, man, it's just great memories.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't remember if it was $5 and $2 extra for the sandwich, or if it was $5 included. You get the sandwich included, I forget. But I was so happy to have that little sandwich by the time my whole day would go by.
Sure.
And it was nice because he actually got me listening to some wider spectrum of things, and also I discovered that, man, a lot of the stuff he was telling me to listen to, I had already heard it, not knowing what it was, you know.
So you're in your high school age already?
No, this is junior high.
Still junior high.
Yeah, this is junior high.
Did he get you on the piano at all at that age?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, it's funny. I still teach people the same 2/5 voicings that I learned back then. Actually, that was from David Peterson. I learned those, and just playing through tunes. You know, nothing really nothing elaborate. You know, but certainly being able to comp anything I can play.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until years later I started studying with Phil Woods, and man, Phil like very virtuoso on the piano.
Yeah.
Like really, really good. And I was like, wow, I guess it does make a difference. But
yeah.
So everyone's different.
Yeah.
You know, like of all the stories we've heard, and I'm sure you over the years, it was interesting. I would ask Nat Adderley about everything about Cannonball, as you can imagine. And then, so I asked Nat, I said, did Cannon play piano well? He said, hell no, I ain't play any better than me. And Nat played about like me. I was like, are you sure? He's like, Cannon couldn't play no piano? I was like, I think you might be wrong, Nat. How am I going to be wrong about my brother? You know, so it was very interesting. And for me to think about it over the years, and knowing what I know about Cannonball from Nat, he had like insane ears. Like Nat said, any song he ever heard, he could play it in any key right away. And 10 years later, he said, man, you remember that song? Oh, yeah, I still remember it. He was just freakish like that. And an incident happened with me, with Nat, where he was doing a clinic. And at the end of the clinic, he says, so, you know, do this, do that, and you should learn all the tunes and all the keys. And to me, that always meant you should play blues and rhythm changes and Cherokee and all the keys. But no, he said all the tunes. So this kid says, people always say that. Can you demonstrate? He said, yeah. Can you play Donna Lee? And he picked a weird key. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't A flat where it is. And Nat leaned over to me and said, that starts on major 7? I said, yes, sir. And he played it in that key. He was waiting for me to play with him, too. I was like, I was frozen. Done. And so I was sitting there calculating how to take a solo, and he playing the melody. And the thing that's funny about that is before that incident happened, I was in my mind saying, you know, I can do this, I know this, I can do that, you know, comparing myself to him in a weird way, but, you know, just doing it. And I remember I was just so fucked up from that, and I couldn't believe it. He said, man, how come you didn't play the melody with me? I said, I couldn't. He says, I'm sitting there telling these kids they got to be able to play the stuff in all the keys, and you can't even do that? I said, man, I don't know anybody else that can't either, man. I said, I'm serious. He's like, really? He says, people can do that? I said, man, come on now. I said, you know, because it was interesting, because I was complaining to myself. It seemed like everything we did was in the key of F. And but it was a non-issue. You know, my old cats, man, they always had something. So it was healthy because it started a really in-depth debate and talks about jazz education, how he and Cannonball learned how to play, how, you know, people of my generation were learning how to play, and where jazz education was headed. There was no jazz education when Nat was growing up. And what was good about how I learned how to play and what was bad. Like, obviously, not being able to play everything in all the keys. But I told him, I said, man, listen, nobody can do that. I said, maybe, some, freakish musician that might not even be a real musician, might just be playing just for fun, but, I don't know, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If you told me, play Donnelly in the key of B, I'd be like, I'll take a solo if you let me think about it for about 15 minutes, but jeez, man. And so it was just amazing that he was able to do that without even thinking about it. And so he talked about how he and Cannonball learned songs. And there was a thing called the Hit Parade, which is in the newspaper. They would print what NBC, ABC, and CBS would play on the radio, because there was not a lot of radio stations, and they lived down in Florida, Tallahassee, Florida. So it wasn't a lot of options. And say if they were going to learn a song like Stella by Starlight, it would be printed in the paper. 7:07 a.m., Doris Day and the NBC Orchestra. Then it might be 10:03 a.m., Bing Crosby and blah, blah. So it would be all different keys, all different tempos, all different versions. So when they would learn those songs, they would just learn the song. It wasn't about a key or anything. And then maybe if some jazz person that they admired or liked played it in a certain key, they would all play it in that key.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
It matters to me. It didn't matter to them.
That's interesting.
It was very interesting. It was, so.
I mean, could Nat? I had heard that Nat didn't read music. Was that true?
No,
that's
true
not
at
true.
all.
Right?
No,
Okay.
no. Nat and Cannonball. I never met Cannonball, but
Right.
I'm sure he read music, and Nat, of course, read music well. Cannonball was a music education major and a band director, and Nat was a sociology major. He was 3 years younger than Cannonball, but they historical black colleges, especially at that time, taught the kids with a chip on their shoulder. Sorry about that. They taught kids, and they almost had a chip on their shoulder, and it wasn't impossible to fail, but they would ride them extra hard in a positive way, and some of those kids needed that, and so. I could not imagine you going to a historical black college, especially at that time, majoring in music and not being able to read music.
Right.
So whoever told you that about Nat was
Right.
way off,
Cool.
Not even close. I remember Nat told me that Duke Ellington came to play at their school, which was called Florida A&M, and the music piano teacher, she put a padlock on their Steinway grand piano that the school had. He is not playing our Steinway, playing that boogie woogie stuff. And that was like, this is Duke Ellington. He's not playing that jazz stuff. So that was the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And he said when Duke Ellington played at the school, he played on an upright spinning piano. And hey man, listen, this is what it is.
It is. You're
and I always tell this story, but it's an important little piece of history that if it wasn't for the fact that I worked with Nat and knew him, and he was my mentor and friend and brother and father, I wouldn't know this stuff. But Nat went out before Cannonball, even though Nat was younger, and he was calling Cannon, man, Cannon, you need to come on up to New York. Cannon's like, what am I going to do that for, man? I got it going on in Florida. You better bring your ass back down here. And he said, I'm teaching school. My band's working 3-4 nights a week, man, rolling in the dough. He's like, great, And that's like, well, I'm doing this gig. And they said, man, bring your ass back home. So this was the debate. The only reason Cannonball came to New York City, you ready for this? Because he wanted to get an advanced degree, and the state of Florida at that time, if you were black, was not possible. And the historical black colleges were not accredited for that. So the state of Florida, rather than integrate, they would pay for you to be in line with whatever the government's rights were. They would pay for you to go to school out of town.
Really?
Yeah. So Cannonball Adderley came to New York City to enroll at NYU. That was why he came to New York City.
Wow.
Wasn't to play jazz and to be a star, none of that shit, man. He came to go to school. And Jerome Richardson was someone that they both knew, Nat and Cannonball, and they went to the Cafe Bohemia to hear that band because their friend was playing in the band, and he was late for the gig. And Cannonball was sitting on his case, waiting for the band to start. Yeah. And somebody said, "Hey man, that heavy set dude right there, he can play." And you know how New York guys are. They, reluctant, don't think anybody other than New York cats that they know can play. And so this is the story according to Nat. Yeah. Nat said, they asked him, "You want to play?" And he said, "Sure," And he said they decided to play I Remember April. And at that time, it's hard for us to imagine this, but at that time, he said that was kind of a tricky tone. Yeah. People didn't play it, but he said, we played that song in Florida all the time. And so they called it fast. And of course, Cannon jumped in there and played, and everybody go, "Oh my God, the new bird." Yeah. So of course he could play. And so then all of the things happened for them based on that. Yeah. Right. And but like I said, he was here to go to school. Wow. Yeah.
And so you played with Nat for how long?
I don't know. Yeah, it seems like it was a long time, but when you look back on it, I don't think it was that long. Maybe 5 years or something.
And how did you meet Nat originally? Like, how did this happen?
I was playing on the street. I used to work for a company called Penton Software. Yeah. And
was this already in New York?
Yeah, this was in New York. Okay. Yeah. And Penton Software, when I used to work there, it was at 420 Lexington Avenue, which is between 42nd and 43rd Street, or it might be 43rd and 44th. And when I would leave work, at that time I lived in Bretton Hall, which was 86 and Broadway. And sometimes I would walk home, which is a long ways. Yeah. But when I would walk through Times Square, I would see these bands playing music. And I would hear the bands. And so then one day I brought my horn to work, and so when I was walking home, I would sit in with these bands. Yeah. And I don't know, about a year later or so, I got laid off. Or did I quit? No, I think I got laid off because I remember getting unemployment. And I just, started playing with these bands. This band on the street that I had heard. I would always sit in with them when I was working. But now, since I was drawing unemployment, they asked me if I wanted to play with them. I was like, sure. It was great because I was just practicing and doing that.
Would anyone that I would know who they were?
There was a guy named Charles Davis, not the older Charles Davis, but it was another Charles Davis who could play, who was really good. Guy from Milwaukee.
Arthur. Did you see Arthur?
Arthur Rames? Yeah. I did meet Arthur, but this was Arthur had already left town or been run out of town, and he came back. And when he came back, he played with us for about, I guess, maybe 2 weeks or so. Yeah. So I had a chance to meet him and hear him and play with him. And, Arthur, amazing talent. And, but on the street, I had a lot of presence and I was loud. So it would kind of cover him up in in terms of how people are in the audience, this guy ta other guys tweet. It's like that. So it was a little weird like that, but I enjoyed hearing him and just being around him. And
but you were already at this point. This is before I knew you, heard you. This is already pretty much kind of a fully developed version of Vincent Herring?
Not at all. No. I wasn't a good player at all. I had some things about me that I could do. I could.
But you moved to New York not for music, or you were doing the thing on the side.
No. I was in school at a school called Cal State Chico.
Okay.
And I wanted to go to New York because, as you're reading the back of album covers and you're learning about the history of the music, everything is based in New York.
Yeah.
So no matter what you're doing, you think to yourself, man, I want to go to New York.
Right.
And so, I fell prey to that or victim to that. And there was a military band, a specialty band that was having audition. This was the West Point band.
Yeah.
And so I sent in a tape to audition, and they called me back as one of the finalists and offered to fly me into New York to audition live for this band.
Oh, okay.
And so I flew into New York. That was my first time in New York, and went to this live audition, and somehow, I don't know how, but I could read certainly, and I could kind of play, and they end up selecting me for the band, and that was how I got to New York. So now, I'm jumping forward. Certainly, you got to have basic training and all of this stuff. Your original question was, how did I end up playing on the street? So long story short, after the Army and all of that, I got a job at this company, Penton Software, sitting in with bands after work. And then when I was laid off or quit, I don't remember, but I assumed laid off because I do remember drawing Social Security, unemployment. So then I would play with those bands, and then I'd go home, practice, play with the band, practice. And so this was really good for my development. And then I got a National Endowment grant. But even before that, when I was in the Army, I started studying with Phil Woods. And man, you ready for this? I studied not only with Phil, but I took clarinet lessons from Eddie Daniels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And the Army paid for all of that shit. And I was supposed to take lessons with Joe Allard, and I remember speaking to him on the phone a few times, and speaking to his wife, but...
was he up at Berkeley at that point?
I don't know. He may have been, but he lived, like, I want to say Jersey or Rockland County or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I used to drive to Delaware, Water Gap, Pennsylvania for my lessons with Phil Woods. And Eddie Daniels was on the Upper West Side.
Okay.
He used to take lessons there. And funny
also
story.
Also a hell of a tenor player as well.
Man.
Right?
You know what? Eddie Daniels on the alto.
Really?
Man. When we finish this, I'll play some stuff where you're going to be shocked. I'll put it to you like this. On the clarinet, I love Eddie Daniels. On the alto, I love Eddie Daniels. On the tenor, no, he's obviously a good musician on the tenor, of course, as well. But no, man, on the alto,
wow, that I never
he had
heard
so
of,
much personality and character on the alto. He sounds so good. I wonder why he stopped playing it. Yeah,
but you had this drive, right? I mean, like you still, regardless of what was going on with this software job, you wanted to play with.
Yeah, no, I definitely wanted to play.
With all your heroes, people like Freddie Hubbard, and Cedar Walton,
all
these people
that
you eventually ended up playing with.
Yeah, but like those things happen once you can kind of play,
Right.
So the only gigs that opened up for me at first was like David Murray Big Band and Octet and Don Pullen, those kind of avant-garde, Beaver Harris.
Were you already playing with the Mingus Band when you met Don Pullen and
No,
those cats?
No.
Okay.
That was years
later. That was much later.
Yeah. So, I started playing with those bands on the street, or the band on the street.
Yeah.
There was a guitar player named Bruce Whitcomb, who was later replaced by Adam Rogers.
Yeah.
There was a bass player named Hayward Peel, who got shot and killed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. In fact, the reason I stopped playing on the street, or one of the reasons, there were several reasons, but it became kind of addictive because you would make more money than you think.
Yeah.
And, it's like, am I going to do this? Like, every day, it's like, wow. It's like, am I turning down that money? And we get back to your original question. So I started sitting in with these bands, and then I eventually started playing with the bands. Walter Booker, bass player. Walter Booker came, just happened to be walking by somewhere in Times Square and heard us play, and he stood there for a while. And then he asked me for my number. He said, "Man, do you know any Cannonball music?" I said, "Yeah, I know a lot of those songs." He says, told me who he was and said he worked with Nat Adderley, and that he said Nat would love you, and he said, "I want you to come up and play for him." And so I came over his place, play for him over the phone.
Oh wow!
and so he was
better quality back in those days. That was the real phone, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
So he was coming to town to play at Sweet Basil's, and I should come and sit in. And I came to sit in. Could I play? That was a work in progress, And I played, and it was nothing special. But the important part was Nat didn't have a band per se. He would call up, Walter Booker, Jimmy Cobb, Larry Willis, and Sonny Fortune, and this would be his kind of working band whenever he had some gigs. So he wasn't really trying to do gigs. This is after Cannonball died, obviously, and he was just pretty inactive. So he would do some gigs with that group of musicians. It wasn't a lot. So sure enough, Sonny couldn't make one little gig that he had, and he called me. I was like, oh my God, I was like shocked that he called me. And he said, I got to tell these people something about you. Who do you work with? Have you done anything? I work with Beaver Harris. He said, Beaver Harris? He said, man, only people these Beaver know is on the magazine. I was like, I didn't really understand what he meant at the time. And so that was my beginning of playing with Nat. And instead of going back home, I went to Nat's house and stayed with him for a few days. And we just became the best of friends, man. Just really super tight. And, I just loved him so much. Not just as a musician, but just as a friend, and he was just so knowledgeable about everything, and he liked to argue a lot, and he would pick subjects, and he said, "How you feel about affirmative action?" I'd be like, "Well, I don't think we should have affirmative action." And he's like, "You big dummy," and then he would argue the opposite side. And the thing that's funny, what I learned later from his son, is if I had said, yes, I believe in affirmative action. He said, "Well, you ever consider the fact?" And he would,
the opposite.
He just liked to argue.
Where was he living?
He lived in a place called Lakeland, Florida.
So he was always there. He didn't have a place up here?
Well, no. What happened was during the, I guess, early 60s, he moved to Teaneck, New Jersey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And once he moved to Teaneck, New Jersey, but first, he and Cannonball lived together in a place called Dory Miller, which is where Jimmy Heath was living, out in Queens. And I think at that time, it might have been considered Long Island, but it was Dory Miller's in Queens. And it was an apartment complex, and that's where they lived. And then Nat eventually got it together to buy a house in Teaneck, New Jersey, and Cannonball moved to Bel Air, in Los Angeles, and he had a house out there. And I guess when Cannonball was living here for a short time, what did he say? Can't remember if he said he moved into Manhattan for a while, but I don't remember that. But Nat, like I said, moved to Teaneck. And
but when you were getting together?
When I was with him, he's living in Lakeland.
So you would go down there?
Yeah, I'd go down there and hang out.
Wow.
I remember there was a guy, I forget his name, that had all the videos, right? And of course he gave them to Nat, and Nat called me up and said, "Hey, well, you want these videos of Cannonballs?" Hell yeah!
Right.
He was like, "Come down here and get them." I was like, "Okay." So I flew down there and got rented a next extra video thing and recorded all these things, boxes of.
Wow.
Now it's all on YouTube.
Right.
And but
was it that guy Brett Premack or Primack? How you say his name? Was it before him?
I would, if you said it.
Yeah.
It would sure talk. No.
Oh.
So it was something. He was
Okay.
like the guy that
I see.
had all the stuff. Anyway, so we became really good friends, and I was pestering him all the time. Now, why don't we do more gigs? Why don't we do some tours and stuff? He's like, what? And so he didn't, he didn't have anything. He'd have a little gig here, a little gig there.
Yeah.
But I didn't care, like he called me up and said, "Hey man, I got this gig in Pittsburgh, but it doesn't really pay enough for me to be able to hire you." I said, "It's okay, I'll come anyway." And then so I'd like drive up down there. He couldn't believe I would drive down there, hang out with him.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'll pay for your hotel at least." And then
Yeah.
excuse me one second, let me just
That's okay.
stop that. So I just I'm just happy to spend time with him and learn from him.
And he was in pretty good health at this point.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He was a little overweight, but he was in good health. And so eventually,
I'm sorry, but I was going to say it must have felt kind of crazy because, you obviously were into Cannonball and to play with Nat, and
I didn't think about it like that.
No,
It's just like
the sound, getting your sounds together.
Well,
and playing those heads and
interesting things I learned. Like one time at a sound check, he was like, "Man, you're too damn loud." I said, "It's like Cannonball." He said, "Fucking way louder than Cannonball."
Oh yeah,
really? He's like, "Hell yeah, way louder than Cannonball." Are you sure? Hell yeah. So no, this is important because this was like eye opening to me, and what I've learned over the years. A tenor player named Mark Shim.
Yeah.
He plays like old saxophone.
I mean, I've heard him play kind of newer things. He might do a little.
Mark
of everything.
Shim or Mark Sims. There was two of them.
Okay.
Anyway, one was heavily influenced by Joe Henderson.
Okay.
And he was loud. Super loud. He played for a short time in the Mingus Big Band.
Yeah.
And I remember we were doing a concert at Berklee College of Music, and in the dressing room, he was like just blasting. I was like, "Come on, man, it's too loud." And I thought to myself, I said, "Wow, it's just like when I used to play with Nat, and he was telling me how much." And of course, I knew what Joe sounded like. Joe is super soft, tweak, 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 and this guy's duh, And so, but because we as musicians, and we have no perspective of the sound. We know it from the recordings. We don't know what it is live. It's very different. And so that was really eye opener for me to hear that, and also when I used to study with Phil, be in his living room. And I'd hear him play acoustically, and it just gave me another perspective on sound. In fact, the first time I played his horn and mouthpiece, it was so soft to me, it almost closed up, and I could barely play it. And because he was telling me my setup was way too hard, and he said, "Here, play this," and I played his. And I was like, "Wow!" I couldn't even keep a straight tone because it was so soft. By comparison. And so he said, "I want you to reduce your reed strength," and that was the first thing I did. And it was hard going from 4.5 to go into a 2.5.
4.5. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I was playing.
Man.
And
on were you playing a 5 back then? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not that big.
No.
But still, very taxing.
Yes.
And so I reduced to get down to a 2.5, and been there ever since. 2.5. Some period I was at a 3 or something, but now I'm at a 2.5 reed,
What was his sound like in person?
Phil?
In the same room, like
Great.
was it loud or no? I mean,
I didn't.
big, loud.
I didn't perceive it as loud.
Yeah.
It was just a really great quality of sound,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a beautiful sound, man. Especially at that period.
Mm.
There's a record live at the Showboat
Mm-hmm.
that has great. It's recorded well, and it really showcases his sound well.
Yeah.
You know, I love that sound. One time I was doing an interview with Swing Journal, a Japanese magazine, and they asked me what was my favorite Cannonball record for the sound. I said, Portrait of Cannonball. Not Kind of Blue? I said, no, Portrait of Cannonball. And I said, you know, just his sound on that record and the texture of it is just like my favorite. And but there are others that sound great. All fucking Cannonball, they're all great. But that particular one, you know, I just love his sound on that record.
Yeah.
And you know, so hearing Phil live, that was great. And anyway, so I pestered Nat into getting some gigs, and so I didn't really know he was doing that.
Yeah.
And so I finally got the gig with Art Blakey. And I called up Nat. I'm so excited, and I said, you know, we just did maybe 2 or 3 weeks at Sweet Basil's, and I was calling him periodically, telling him about how the gig was going, and you know, everything. Then when it was over, I said, man, so we're going to Europe. He said, when? And I told him dates. He said, no, you're not. I said, yeah, I just spoke to Art. Yes, we are. He said, no, you're not. I said, Nat, Art just told me. He said, no, we going to Australia.
What?
So Nat finally got a tour going, right?
Man.
So now I got to make a decision.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? So, you know, this was a guy that I talked to, I'll make a guess and say 5-6 times a week, you know, almost every day.
Wow.
You know, and so he said, we're going to Australia. So I had to tell Art Blakey that I couldn't make that tour. So I had a previous commitment. Okay, so that happened. Then I get back, I go to see Art, and apologize that I couldn't make the tour. And then he gives me some more dates, and Nat's got a European thing coming up. So it's really, it was a fork in the road. I had to go left or right, and I ended up choosing to go with Nat. There was no right decision, but you know, I mean, like I say, Nat had become super important person in my life, as a friend, and as a mentor. So that's why I made that decision. It wasn't just musical, not at all.
Did you get to play with Art after? And at any point you did?
No. I did 3 weeks at Sweet Basil's.
Okay.
And then we did something in New Jersey, but that was it. I didn't go to Europe, but I still to this day sign programs that people will come in once in a while. And I said, man, I wasn't on that tour.
Yeah.
I saw you. I'm like, man, trust me, it wasn't me.
Wow. Who did get to be played?
At the time, Frank Lacey was the music director in the band. Art decided that he would be music director. And Frank got somebody from Houston.
Oh.
And I don't think he stuck in New York or anything like that, but that was who they got that made that tour that I didn't do in Europe.
Well, this is like mid 80s, something like that. Late 80s.
Yeah. What year did Art pass?
Oh, like 90, something like that. Yeah.
So it was late 80s.
I have met you in 88. How did Jackie meet you to, or did you reach out to Jackie to see if he had something for you?
There was a tribute to Charlie Parker concert in Paris.
Right.
And Phil Woods and Jackie McLean both recommended me as the young guy to do this concert. And but Jackie must have known me to recommend me, so how would I have met him?
Were you already recording your own records at that
No,
point?
no. I think I was just playing with Art Taylor.
Oh, okay.
So I met him that way.
That got to be it, yeah, because that was his man, A.T.
Yeah, but I'll tell you a funny story about those cats. So A.T. would rehearse all the time, which I didn't mind because I get to play with A.T.
Yeah.
Man, great player. And so he rehearsed all the time. He had one gig. Let's say it was January and he had a gig in May, right? Mm-hmm. We rehearsed for that one gig. I mean, that's what it was. And so, sure enough, I get a tour in Europe with somebody, and I said, A.T., yeah, I got a problem with that date. What do you mean? I said, well, I got a tour in Europe, and it's going to enclose those. I can't make that date. He says, you've known about this for months. I said, yeah, that's true, but I kind of need the money, and I need to make this tour. It's like 3 weeks.
Right.
Well, no, this is when the gig is, man. You got to make the gig.
Oh shit.
So I said, I can't. So Jackie McLean calls me up. He says, A.T. told me you're getting a big head.
Oh.
Jackie, come on, man. Nothing like that. And he's like, yeah, you're getting a big head, man. I said, no. I explained it to him, man.
Yeah.
Them old cats, man, they wasn't hearing nothing, man.
It's so different now, man. Forget about it.
Yeah. So that was, but Jackie was, you were around him more than I was.
Yeah.
But Jackie was he was a beam of light, man. He was very knowledgeable, very sensitive to things. He knew, like all those guys, man, he knew a lot of stuff, a lot of music. I tell you what was interesting. On this concert in Paris, to see Jackie and Phil arguing about Stravinsky in some passage and going over to the piano and pecking it out and no, I love this part. This is the best part. No, that's good, but this is better. And it's like, wow, man, these cats have a lot of depth to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot. And I tell you, like the thing, when people ask me what did I learn from Phil Woods, there's some practical things I learned, but the most important thing I learned was where the bar was. And of course the joke goes, where the bar is, no, where the bar is set in terms of level of musicianship that's expected. And Phil was an incredible musician, man. Just, great musician.
Yeah.
He really was. And
you can kind of tell. I mean, he must have studied classically somewhat.
Yeah. He did. And,
I just want to do a check of time here with this. Let's take a pause for the cause right now, and then I'll start another. And we're back. I want to, in this part of it, I don't know, I want to get into your career a little bit more. Like, now you start at what point do you start making some records, and from there, and just talk a little about your concept of playing the saxophone, your concept of jazz music, these kind of things. So at what point did someone approach you, say, we want to make a record with you? Or have you make your own record?
No.
Yeah.
The first time someone approached me, I didn't think I was ready. Of course, I was right. I wasn't ready. And then the next time they approached me, I was doing a tour with Jack DeJohnette.
Okay.
And they offered me some money.
Oh, okay.
To do this record.
Was this in Japan?
Japanese
label?
Exactly.
Okay.
It was Toshiba EMI, which is Blue Note in Japan.
Oh, wow.
And so they offered me, a little more than the other company. I was like, I kind of got to do it. And so, actually it was back to back because there was one record, that happened before that. And it was partially funded with a National Endowment grant and partially funded from the record company. And that was Music Masters.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was where my first record came out. It was called American Experience. And that was it.
Yeah.
A little footnote for you. When I did that record, Kenny Garrett was sitting in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get me to record one of his tunes. And I'm trying to think, I wonder why Wallace Roney was not on that record. I don't know. I don't remember. So
Did you have a specific band at that time?
No, man. It's just people that I knew and admired.
Was Carl on that?
No. I think Mark Jackson was on drums. Marcus McLaurin was on bass.
Yeah.
Rodney Jones on guitar. I want to say John Hicks was on piano. And Clifford on trombone. Not Sonny Rollins, Clifford Adams.
Oh, yeah. I can't think of another Clifford.
No, there's Clifford Adams and Clifford Anderson.
Right.
And
well, he's Clifton Anderson.
Clifton
right?
Anderson.
Right.
And he played with Sonny Rollins.
So Clifford Adams.
Yeah, he played with Kool in the Gang.
Oh,
but he was
yes.
he was a really good jazz player.
Yeah.
And he's on that first record. And man, I can't even remember. Dave Douglas. Trumpet player is on that first record. And then shortly after that, this Toshiba EMI record recording happened. And, we're all students of music, but especially at that time, I was just kind of starting to get some stuff together. And, and like, it's funny you asked me my philosophy and concepts in music playing. Those things really didn't develop until later. Then it's just trying to play and not skate the changes, and it wasn't until later that I really formulated concepts that actually play from a system or a concept. And but before then it was just hang on by your teeth and too much to rest testosterone and so that's what that was.
But already at this point, Ned Adderley told you were playing too loud.
Yeah, well, that was just that was, and I'm sure he was right. It's just a different kind of thing.
But look, I like to project too. I feel like there's that.
I don't think that I'm loud, and in fact, if you ever heard Chris Hunter, you'd know that I'm not loud.
He lives in this building. Yeah, I still haven't met that guy.
He's loud, or he used to be.
Okay,
the last time when I heard him, he was loud. Back in the day, So first time I thought, oh wow, that alto was loud. He was playing a metal Duke off, I think, at the time. It was like, rock and roll.
Was that with the Gil Evans band you were hearing him?
Yeah, I heard him with that and some other ensembles too. He was a good player too.
I mean, I've honestly always been impressed by your sound and couldn't believe when I found out that you play a 5 Meyer. And I'm like, how the hell does Vince get that much sound out of the alto on that? Because I've always played a real big mouthpiece.
Right. It's just a different thing. It's a different kind of sound.
I've gotten smaller as I've gotten older.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, is it just a natural thing for you? It feels comfortable?
Well, it does feel comfortable, but like I say, my concept on playing sound partially developed from just playing in the living room of Phil Woods and hearing him play and hearing him, what he did to produce the sound. Also, my first saxophone teacher, a guy named David Peterson, thorough woodwind player, really good player, and his father also was a woodwind player. And I say woodwind because they did a lot of Broadway and shows and play flute and clarinet and oboe and great saxophone. I remember the first time hearing Dave play it, I was like, wow, just loved his sound on the alto so much. And he used to have an old crusty Selmer, and it's like, man, that just sounds so great. And he used to use a a Gigliotti ligature. It was
Yeah.
like, you know that?
So you just put it on and
It's screwed on.
Screwed on?
Yeah, it was plastic, but it was really good,
Oh.
and I played one of those for a while, and I just loved the sound. So he taught me all the mechanics on how to breathe and exhale properly and hold your throat open.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to get all of that stuff from him early
Okay.
on.
Okay.
So that became second nature to me. I can remember riding the city bus going to baseball practice and trying to practice my breathing. I can remember doing all of that.
Wow.
And that came from, David Peterson. So by the time I came to Phil Woods, I already had some ideas on sound, even though I was misguided somehow in playing stuff that was way too hard and too taxing, and being able to play, thought it was normal to be biting in your lip and all of that stuff. And it's like, no, man, it's never. I can play for 24 hours and not have that as a problem. So, and now, no, I have no problems with that. Those kind of things. The only time I would ever have to do long tones or anything like that is if I hadn't played for a few days. Then I would need to do long tones.
So it's not a part of your daily routine?
Not
really? Okay.
And I don't discourage it from other people.
Yes.
I think you have to take assessment of what you need, what you do good and what you don't. Obviously, if you have a great technical facility and you don't need to work on that a certain kind of way, and your sound sucks, you kind of need to focus there.
Yeah.
So you have to make a lesson plan for yourself based on your strengths and weaknesses. And and I always had a pretty decent sound. And sound that I loved when I got a good read, that I felt good about. So I still don't think that I'm loud, and in fact I'm not loud, but it certainly does project. I know that, and it's a good center of sound, but it's not loud.
I mean, if I put you against another alto player, I think you would be louder than the other alto
You'd
player.
be surprised.
Or maybe you got a bigger sound. Let me put it that way. I love your sound,
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
Love your sound, man.
Well,
You got a nice sound too.
Thank you. But I think that's important, and I feel it can be lacking in some of the younger cats that haven't had an opportunity to be in the same room with some of these kind of legendary figures. I mean, they get to be in a room with you now, which is great. But you're not going to get that through YouTube. You're not going to get it even on a record.
It's very different. Everything is changing. The value system about what's good is changing.
Right.
And, it was interesting some years back when the monk competition was holding the vocal, and somehow I end up having dinner with what's her name? One of the judges.
Okay.
And we were talking, and we were like, if Billie Holiday were trying out for this, she would not make it past the first round.
Right.
She would not even, and we were like, as sad as that is, we both thought, it's true. The value system is so changing about what's good and what's not. A guy like Hank Mobley, the fabric of Blue Note Records, and wrote and composed and played so great. He just can't be heard today, man. These kids aren't hearing him. And what they like, I'm really shocked at some of it. I'm just like really shocked, and you can't be negative on it.
No.
It's funny. Like when I was first in New York, all the tenor players, especially, went to Michael Brecker, and I wasn't. I didn't necessarily like Brecker that much, and I used to go to a school called LIU, right? And Pete, remember Pete Yellen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Pete,
I don't think I've ever actually met him in person, but I know of him.
All right.
Screaming Pete, they call him. Screaming Pete.
Some people. Yeah. He was a really good friend, and we used to hang all the time. And so he was like, well, "You don't like Michael Brecker?" I was like, "Well, He's okay. He said, I'm going to bring him in to play with your ensemble next semester. I was like, okay. And so I'm thinking to myself, man, this guy doesn't even play jazz. And Mike comes in, super nice, man, nice guy. All right, so setting our horns up. He says, Tenor Madden, is that okay? And I said, sure. He starts playing. A little tear comes on my eye. I was like, Father, I could not. I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I'm like stunned.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're kidding me. And Pete's like, I told you, you're a good player. Just like, man, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know why these kids can't hear certain things. You know, I think there's, you know, with all the being the information age and everything accessible to you at your fingertips, there's good and there's bad, man. I don't know. You know, I just I try to play music as honest as I can, but as I try to get these kids to listen to stuff and you know what they're listening to, what impresses them, it's very different, and that's why I say the value system is changing. And I try to be in tune with everything and know what's going on and is this valid, is this not? And it's new day. It's a new day.
I mean, you try not to feel like what they say, like an old head, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You certainly, and I'm aware of that, and I, you know, like, you know, when I was coming up, it's like guys like Charlie Parker only, you know, and even Cannonball Adderley, they were kind of dismissive of some of them, you know, like, really, come on, man. So. You know, so I know how some of those old heads are. When I first came to town, I was walking with my horn near the Jazz Cultural Theater, and Lou Donaldson and Jim, what's his name? He passed. Jim, I forget his name. He used to always him and Lou. They were always hanging together. And they said, "Hey, is that alto?" This is Lou Donaldson. I said, yes, sir. He said, you don't know no Charlie Parker? I said, yes, I do. I know 20 solos. He started laughing. I said, maybe 21. And Jim Harrison. And they just doubled over and they were just rolling. And he said, you ain't never heard no Charlie Parker. Now, you know, of course I never heard Bird, but you know, it's like, why would you even say that? You know? But I understand what he means now clearly, you know, having had a chance to hear Freddie Hubbard and work with Freddie Hubbard and just hear him, man, it's terrifying, you know. Just you know, it's funny, like people meet you and they say, oh man, you're so humble. Man, it's scarred for life. You hear some of these guys play, man. Are you kidding me? It's easy to be humble.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And even on my best days, no matter how well I play, it's easy to be humble. You know, having heard some of the guys, man.
What do you attribute? I mean, I was having this conversation after a gig, and you know, the music came on in the club, and it was something from back in the day, and automatically you're just like, we're all just like, God damn, that beat, you know. And so we start talking, and we're saying, you know, these cats would just play. Forget about practicing. It was just
all the
playing.
All the time.
It was just playing gigs day after day after day.
That was one of the reasons I started playing on the street. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about anything other than being able to play every day. And so we would play a lunchtime set from 12 to 2. And then we'd play an evening set from 4 to 6. That was during the week. And then we would play on the weekend all day, you know, in the park, in different spots, and at night in the village. And so I would have a lot of ample time to practice, but I'd be playing all the time. And that does for you some exceptional things. And there is not, that doesn't exist. In school, there's kind of a scene, you know, where you can get, where you're playing, but not like that kind of intensive thing. So I think that was a big thing that those older cats had, is that they were all working all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. And everyone was into the music.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just a little fringe 2% of the music. It
Right.
was more significant. And even music that wasn't jazz had elements in it. It's just different times, man. Meaningful music. Coltrane's Prayer of Love Supreme, man.
Right.
It's just like, it's incredible music.
Mm-hmm.
You ever hear the whole record, the original record?
What do you mean?
Oh my God, you're in for it.
I mean, I've
After
heard
this-
all the various versions that they've come out with.
No. They actually, I knew that there was that wasn't the original recording that we were listening to. I knew that from John Stubblefield. I don't know how he knew that, but
Yeah.
he told me about that years ago. And the original recording is with Coltrane, Archie Shepp, and Pharoah Sanders.
Right.
And
Because you hear another tenor come in at the end, right, on one of those tunes, like
maybe,
yeah,
but on
it's like a doubled note all of a sudden.
on-
You're like, what's going on?
well,
But
there's whole tracks. When we finish this, I'll play one of them for you.
oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yeah,
finally come out. I think they put a box set out or something.
okay,
And on the original liner notes, Coltrane apologized to Archie Shepp and Pharoah Sanders.
really,
But we don't know what it's for, because the record came out and they're not on it. So, but no, those musicians, man.
I mean, to develop so quickly, like someone like Freddie Hubbard. I mean, it's just like
Yeah, I mean,
Clifford Brown. You hear all these people, Booker Little.
yeah.
I remember Mabe saying that two cats that practiced the most were Booker Little and Frank Strozier,
Right.
and you could kind of hear it, right? But-
Yeah. Frank Strozier, when I turned kids on Frank Strozier, they like,
Right.
where is he?
Right.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a house in Beverly Hills. So put it that way.
I remember trying to, I at least had sense to know who he was, and I was trying to find him for the longest, and then
Yeah.
I heard him doing an interview on BGO, and he was either doing a solo piano concert or something, and the guy says, well, why are you not playing saxophone? He says, because Reed's got too bad. And, it's like a joke, but
Yeah,
I was disappointed I never had a chance to hear him
me too.
as a professional, and because he's a tremendous musician, even
Yeah.
if the public didn't know it,
Right.
And New York's full of people like that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, there's times I think to myself, things are whatever way they are now, but then you think it's probably always been, to a certain extent, a certain way. There's the people you know about, and then there's tiers of people that
Listen,
are great that you don't know about.
You just said it's exactly. I don't think the scene has changed much, with the exception of, obviously, there was a heavier workload, but the kinds of work and concerts and stuff and money, I don't think that's changed much, man.
No.
Not at all. And so it's important to enlighten your students about what's really here, because they're under an illusion of what everything is. They really don't know,
Yeah.
And so
But you don't want to kill the spirit of the dream is what makes
but here's the
creativity.
thing.
Yeah.
Reality based, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey. And I remember when I was really young, and I remember my uncle saying to me, like I should be a professional, something like him. He was a engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's, what are you trying to do this music for? What if something happened to your hand? I said, well, then I'm just not gonna play, but I will try until that happens. So I couldn't. It was hard. I was passionate about it. I couldn't be steered away from it. But I do think that people need to know exactly what they're getting themselves into and into the business.
Yeah.
So that's, that part is not great, but what is great is the quality and the history of the music is very addictive because it's very so much great music. It's amazing what you can do with 12 notes, man.
Oh man,
that's why I can't hit the lottery, man. That's hard to arrange all those notes.
It's true.
All over these years.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, Vince, man, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Mike, let me just say, man, I love your playing, man. I think you're a great player.
Oh, thank you,
And
man.
it doesn't matter what I think. You are a great player, man. And,
Well, I appreciate it, man.
And
And you were part of it. I mean, you're part of my history as well. I mean, you were
you
there,
kidding me, man?
inspiring us. You, Antoine Roney, and
Oh yeah.
and Renee, even Renee McLean. Besides Jackie, and but yeah, and you've helped me a lot over the years too, and having me come sub for your students, and
I'll do it again.
and getting to meet these younger cats, who are out there doing it now. I mean, you've got a lot of students that are out there playing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
For years now.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Jesus
Yes.
Christ, man. Some of them are so good too, man.
Yeah.
Whew.
Don't teach them so good, man.
I know.